Hello, I'm William Michael, and this year I've started offering live video-based tutoring for students of all ages in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and we've been at it for a couple of weeks, and those tutoring sessions have been going really well. I know the students have enjoyed them and are beginning to make significant progress in their studies, and I thought it would be helpful to make a video where I basically show parents what I do during a tutoring session. So parents can consider whether they think something like tutoring sessions for students will be helpful and won't have to sit and guess what it's like to have a tutoring session. I want parents to understand that I've been a full-time teacher and school administrator for 22 years now. So even though online tutoring is new in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, I've been tutoring kids for over 20 years. I've been a private school teacher, I've been a private school administrator, I've been a tutor of students at private schools, I've tutored homeschool students in their houses, I've hosted students in my house. I've been doing this for 20 years, so even though the format is new, the work of tutoring is something that I've been engaged in for a long time, and I'm very comfortable in it, and I think we have a lot to offer. And now that we're offering online tutoring, it makes tutoring more convenient for everyone involved. Here in the Charlotte area, I don't have to drive up into the Charlotte area for a tutoring session. We can just meet online, whereas a few years ago I was driving to houses to meet with students and things like that. So the online tutoring makes things very convenient, and it makes things more affordable. I don't have to charge nearly as much as I would charge for an in-home tutoring session, and really I think that we can do just as much, maybe even more, with online tutoring than we can do through in-person tutoring. So the technology is really great. I think it's very effective for tutoring, and I'd like to just walk you through what I do with students when I meet with them in online tutoring sessions. There's two different kinds of tutoring sessions. One for students who are subscribed to the premium student plan. They have one weekly tutoring session with me, but it's a general tutoring session. So we meet once a week to go over all of their studies, to look over all of their progress, to answer all of their questions, and I help them to plan and manage all of their studies. That's what I call a general tutoring session, and that's what's provided for students who are subscribed to the premium student plan. So I meet with those students once a week. I know all that's going on in their lives, their family lives. I know what their challenges are. I talk to their parents about what their goals are. I see all of their progress regularly, grade all of their work in the Academy Study Center. And I develop a pretty good working relationship with those kids. After a few meetings, really, once we get going, things get pretty comfortable and routine for us. So that's one type of tutoring session. The other type of tutoring session is what I call a special tutoring session, where we meet to discuss a specific subject or lesson, where a parent arranges a single tutoring session to deal with a weakness in the student's studies. So there are two different kinds of tutoring sessions. Both of them use the same tools, same structure, and so on. We just deal with all of a student's courses in a general tutoring session, and only one course or even one lesson in a special tutoring session. So two different types of tutoring meetings depending on what the parent has arranged for the student. But everything else is the same. Now, I keep records for each of the students that I work with in tutoring, and this is completely separate from any online records or anything like that. I have records for individual students. I have a form, a tutoring worksheet that I've developed over the years that I use to prepare for each tutoring session. I use it to take notes during the tutoring session, and then I use it to wrap up and write a summary after our tutoring session. And I keep all of those records in the student folders. So before a meeting, I can pull out a student's folder, go over what we did in the previous meeting, prepare my new worksheet for the coming meeting, and then use that to direct our time together when we meet. So these are organized, goal-oriented meetings. It's not just random discussion. I have a very specific format and a set of objectives that I work through during a tutoring session. I'll usually get through most of the things that I want to get through within the first half or 2/3 of the time of our meeting, and then I'll leave the last portion of our meeting for any questions that the student has, and then we'll answer all of the students' questions, and if we have to take a little extra time to do that, it's no big deal as long as I have open time afterwards. But we wrap up answering any questions that the student has, and then the student gets back to work, and we keep in contact during the week through chat or email, and then the following week or whenever the next tutoring session is scheduled, we pick up where we left off and continue our work together. Now, what's cool about the tools we have is that when I get on in a tutoring session with a student, the student can just keep his eyes on me because I can provide everything that the student needs during the meeting. And I'll walk you through and give you some examples of that. So first of all, most simply, we can just talk in a video conference together like this. We can go back and forth and communicate. Students' first meeting is usually awkward for them because they're fumbling around with headsets and microphones. Sometimes there's some technical problems that we work on. And in the first meeting, I take time to make sure that everything's comfortable for the student. We're able to communicate easily and clearly. Make sure that the student's internet connection is sufficient for these meetings. Sometimes it's not, and they're just not possible. But we take some time at the beginning just to make sure everything is set up and working smooth. I help the students to troubleshoot any problems that they're having. And then once we settle in, that first meeting, usually pretty awkward for the students because they're getting comfortable with everything. But the second meeting, they come knowing exactly what to expect. They're already set up and ready to go. And after that, the meetings become very comfortable. The format and the video itself becomes invisible, and we just get to work. So if you're worried about technical issues, we deal with those things in our first meeting and make sure everything is working fine. The students, though, they can just focus on me because I can provide everything that they need during our meeting, and I'll show you what I mean. So first of all, we have the opportunity just to talk together, face-to-face, very convenient and much more effective than any effort at communicating by email or text chat. We can just talk together. We can go through lessons together. We can work through question and answers together. I can assess student work live, face-to-face. It's very, very efficient, and the students usually appreciate it. But when I want to work with the student on some actual study materials or their study accounts or even planners that I manage with them, I can just pull that stuff up on the screen. So for example, if I want to take a look at the study center and show a student exactly what I want him or her to do, or take a look at his account and so on, all I've got to do is switch over to my other screen here, and we can take a look at the study center together. So I can show a student exactly what I'd like him to look at. So if, for example, if we're studying Latin reading together, I can just open up the lesson with the student looking on, and we can just work on this together. So it's very convenient for the student. I can just pull up lessons, show him exactly what I'm talking about with any quizzes or assignments. And he just needs to pay attention and stick with me looking at the screen while we go through this together. So that's very convenient. And then once I've showed him what I'd like to show, I can just flip back to our conversation and we continue our discussion together, whatever we're working on. If I want to pull up a source text, one of the textbooks that we use in the Academy, the student doesn't need to go fumbling around to get a book or anything like that. He doesn't have to have another computer to look at to access his materials. I'll just pull it up on the screen like this. So if we're studying reasoning, we'll just take a look at the text together, and I can walk through it with him. We can study it together, talk about it. We don't need anything else. The texts, all of the texts in the Academy, I'll just prepare before our meeting, get them ready to share, and we can just continue our discussion as we look at the text together. And once we've seen everything that needs to be seen in the text, we can just switch back to our discussion and keep our session moving forward. So it's very efficient for accessing study materials and looking at any work that the students are asking questions about or struggling with, or that I'd like to ask a student about. I can just pull all of that material up on the screen. The student doesn't need to do anything but follow along. And then lastly, I work with students to help them manage their studies, to plan their studies, set goals, record tasks that they complete, and this allows us to communicate with each other. It helps the student to organize his studies and focus just on specific tasks, which is helpful for the student, but it also allows me to keep students accountable and make sure that they're getting tasks done each week, prioritize tasks that I tell them to do to help them with the most important objectives in their studies. So if I want to look at a planner with a student, again, I can just pull a planner up on the screen, switch over to our screen, and we can go through the student's planner. You can see here that I provide the students with a schedule for their studies. That's pre-approved by the parents. I'll send a copy of this planner to the parents before we start meeting, and I'll give suggestions for a study schedule, and I'll ask the parent to look over that schedule, make any changes and adjustments, and then both of us know what the student should be working on with regard to time each day. So we work out that schedule together, the parents and I, and then we set out specific goals for each of the major subject areas. You can see trivium, quadrivium, philosophy, theology, and humanities. And there's extra spaces for afternoon and evening studies if the students add anything or want help planning their evening study time, if they want to work on extra tasks and things like that. So we work out this plan together with their schedule and the subjects that the parents want them studying, and then I'll provide the student with goals each week, things that I'd like the student to work on. So for example, in trivium, if the student is working on Latin reading, I can tell the student to complete one translation exercise each day, and I can say complete lesson 4 this week. So I can give the student specific goals to work on for the coming week, and then the student will update this achievements column with the tasks that he gets done. So he can say that he completed translation exercise, and this would be the student typing on his own during the week. And he could say that he completed the lesson. He completed lesson 4. So I can provide goals for the students. Students can update what they've achieved each week, and this allows us to, all three of us, I should say, this allows parents, tutor, and students to all have our eyes on one document that keeps everything organized and helps the student to have the simplest possible focus in his studies each week. So whether it's looking at a student account on the Study Center, whether it's looking at study materials together, or assignments, anything else we need to pull up on the screen, or whether it's working together on the student's planner. The student doesn't need to bring any of that to our meetings. I have all of that on my side. I prepare it all for the student for our meeting, and then we work efficiently through it during the time that we have scheduled together. So as you can see, I think that's probably pretty impressive to see how easy it is for us to work together and handle so many different issues in a very convenient manner during these tutoring sessions. So now that you've seen the sort of tools and methods that I use to work with the students, as for time, normally a tutoring session, 30 to 40 minutes is sufficient to cover everything once we start working together. The first meeting sometimes is only 15 minutes. We just basically introduce each other, talk a little bit about studies, get things like their planner set up, make sure they're enrolled in the right courses, and then I just have the student get to work so that over the course of the next week he can start to do some work, submit assignments, take quizzes, and that becomes the content that we talk about in our future meetings. So the first meeting, like I said, we introduce each other, take care of technical issues, make sure that all of the devices we're using are working well, that the student is able to hear me and see me, that I can hear and see him. We take care of all those issues in the first meeting, usually a short meeting to get started. And then by our second and third meetings, the routine becomes very comfortable and we start really getting work done. So that's how a tutoring session works. I keep all the records here. And what I also do at the end of a tutoring session, I usually write an email to the contact parent, giving an overview of what we talked about, things that I'd like the parent to focus on with the student for the week, and any other instructions or advice based on our meeting. I usually send a message to the parents so parents know what's going on and what to focus on and how they can help with their children's studies. So that's how tutoring works. It's very convenient. I try to make it as comfortable as I can for the students. I've been doing this for a long time. I've always enjoyed great relationships with my students, and I really hope that parents consider the benefits of these tutoring sessions for their children and overcome any aversion to the technology or the screen time or these things. We can use these things for good. I'm a trustworthy tutor. You'll see that I never mess around. You can trust me to always be focused on the work at hand and encouraging students to do what their parents tell them to do. I'm always on the parents' side in any discussions or issues that come up. Any parents who have worked with me with tutoring will confirm that. The students themselves will confirm that. And we just get our work done. We don't mess around. No silly chit chat or anything like that. I'm not the kind of guy who tries to be cool with kids. I just get to work, make sure the kids get the help that they need, and encourage them to grow up and be mature, rather than me become immature like many modern teachers do. And students respond well. They like being talked to respectfully. They like being encouraged and supported. I think that they recognize my sincerity and my work ethic, and they know we're not messing around, and they know that if they're willing to do some work, they have help and they have an opportunity to accomplish some special things. So if you're considering tutoring, I encourage you to get in touch with me. If there's any questions you have about the details of things that I've showed you or what your child would need to be able to participate in these meetings, just get in touch and ask. You can call me here at the office. The number is 704-776-4696. That phone number comes right to me, so if you call, you're either going to get my wife or me, and no one else. So if you'd like to talk about these things, you can call or send an email to mail@classicalliberalarts.com. So I invite anyone studying in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy to consider making use of tutoring. It's effective. I think you'll find it very helpful for you as a parent. I think you'll find it very encouraging for your children as students. And thanks to the technology, we can do this conveniently and affordably, because I don't need to charge what would be considered normal tutoring rates to do this, since I do it from the comfort of my own office. So I hope that's a helpful introduction to what I do with students through our tutoring sessions. And like I said, if you have any questions, just get in touch. We can talk about the details. To make arrangements for tutoring, just go on the Academy website, go to the online catalog on the main website, and you'll see one of the categories in the catalog is tutoring, and just select online tutoring and pick day and time that you'd like to arrange tutoring sessions for. Make the tutoring session payment, and that's it. We're all set. You'll get an email with a link to our online meeting, and at the time of our scheduled meeting, you'll just open your email, get that link, open it up, and I'll be there waiting at our scheduled time. So it's very convenient. After the first 2 or 3 meetings, everything will be comfortable, and I think that you'll appreciate the help that's available. So please contact me with any questions, and give tutoring a consideration for your children in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. God bless.